Start. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for another day and another week. I ask for you to guide our county and guide our cities so that we may make the best decisions that honor you and profit and make us a blessing to you. In Jesus' name we pray.
Good morning, everybody. I'll make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes from last week.
I'll second it.
Motion been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. On the claims this week, the sheriff informed us a week or two ago that he got a $150,000 KDHE grant. And I just, on this here, he purchased, out of the grant money, he purchased a 16 by 6 3-stall restroom trailer for $50,410. And that's on this claim, so. I'll make a motion, we pay the claims in the amount of $188,596.58.
He had sent us an email here prior to telling us about that.
Right, he sent us an email a week or two ago that he got a $150,000 grant from KDHE, but I just want to tell everybody that that's what was purchased, was a 16 by 6 3-stall bathroom trailer for $50,410.
Did you second? I'll second. Motion been moved and seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
David, you got anything right off the bat?
Not really. No.
AMR?
Good morning, Don Brooks with AMR. I've got our monthly reporting for the month of July 1st through the 21st. In Blue Mountain, there were 9 calls, 2 transports. Centerville, 6 calls, 2 transports. Linn, 14 calls, 7 transports. Linn Valley, 8 calls, 3 transports. Mountain City, 14 calls, 5 transports. Parker, 13 calls, 6 transports. Pleasanton, 27 calls, 14 transports. Prescott, 2 calls, 1 transport, for a total of 93 calls and 40 transports for the month of July. Questions?
I don't know.
Thank you.
Thank you, Don.
Randy?
Good morning, Commissioners. Randy Hagwell, Linn County Rural Fire and Emergency Management. Sent out the weekly call summary. We had 8 calls, bring our yearly total up to 316 calls. I'd like permission to hire Evan Weir as a volunteer firefighter pending pre-employment testing. He would be on Station 940, which is the Parker Station. That'd bring that total up to 9 out of 15 spots available.
I'll make a motion, we hire Evan Weir as a voluntary fireman at the Parker Station.
I'll second it.
Motion been moved and seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Just a reminder, this week, Thursday night, the 25th at 7 o'clock at the Pleasanton Community Center is the quarterly LEPC meeting. Public is invited to attend. The other thing with emergency management is with the presidential declaration signed for the flood event from April 25th through the 30th. We posted the information on our Facebook page about if you sustain damages as an individual, they can contact us and we'll pass that information on to KDM and FEMA where you may qualify for public assistance. There are requirements to qualify, but we can push that information on up the chain. That information will also be coming out in the papers this week. So if anybody has any questions, please contact the Emergency Management Office. That is all I have unless you guys have something.
I don't.
I don't have anything.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ranger.
I do have the treasurer's interest report and delinquent tax report. I just put that on your site this morning, but, second quarter interest this year is $304,596.10, making the year to date $494,256.53. And then the delinquent real estate taxes at the end of June were $842,747.43, and personal property $56,985.87. And then there was a message from the sheriff this morning that he's out of town, so we don't have a report on prisoners.
Is that all you had right now?
Yeah.
Sean?
Morning, Commissioner. Sean West, Public Works. Found some vests in your chairs. We're scheduled to meet with Burns, McDonald's, Evergy, and Landhill at 2200 at Yancey at 1300 hours or 1 o'clock. I have propane recommendations from our openings for feral gas for $1.32 for up to 1,300 gallons, which would be a total of $17,160 if needed. I just needed a motion to accept those bids.
I'll make a motion that we accept the bid from Feral Gas for $1.32 for up to 13,000 gallons for a total of $17,160.
I'll second. Motion been moved and second. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Update on the Hellsbend project from the contractor. They expect to start early March next year, which puts the late date for July, early August for completion, depending on winter backlog, and will be updated as we get any further information, but they're anticipating finishing no later than early October with the new bridge in service and available for operations no later than halfway through September. Dates may be improved or changed as we go along.
Is there anything we need to do on our side, permitting or anything like that? I mean, is there?
No, the engineering and everything was delivered to me last week by mail and to our engineers. The final engineering on it and design drawings, they're available for review by yourselves or the public in my office. At this point, KDOT's managing the program, and until we get further along in the process and start with the construction meetings, which we are basically attending to be updated, but not managing the project, we don't have any further information or involvement at this time. You saw I sent some information to you from KDOT on fund class recommendations or information on that. It's functional classification system of roadways. These reviews happen, I believe, every 10 years along with the census. These road classifications are going to determine your minor and major collectors and arteries through the county. The importance of that and their classification is the funding that they may receive by that classification. I would highly recommend that based that this occurs only every 10 years and the standards for which they classify these roadways is unfamiliar to me, that you allow me to go out to our on-call engineer, have him review the packet that I sent you and the state's recommendation for those before you sign what they would like, which is a resolution for those recommendations to be changed. Basically, I'd like to go out to our engineer, get his opinion and input on it, on the changes that they want to make sure those changes will be beneficial and appropriate in the future for those roadways and put them in the right class for funding in the future.
I don't have a problem with that, do you guys?
I'm good with it.
Good with it.
Okay. Joyce was out late last week due to illness, so I have a printout instead of the information you normally receive. Total service request from January to date, 343. Total still open, 48. Total closed, 295. Total request for last week were 9, 6 still open and 3 closed. From 427, we've worked 896 roads out of 1,275 for 70% of the roads being worked to this point. South Shop, they were working with graders in tandem to do training for one of the newer operators in ditching and grading operations. They had 2 mowers down last week. I'll talk to you about one of those here in a minute. They did and were able to move one of the New Hollands from the north shop down with a mower on it to cover one of those mowers, and the second mower will be the John Deere that's being put together this week and should be out of the Pleasanton shop. So we should be back up to 2 mowers in the south shop area later this week. North shop ditched half mile on 1800 going west from Yancey. 3 curves culverts were replaced due to rusting out. They've got locates placed in for more of 1800 to be ditched next week. Remove trees from the following roadways: Quarterman, 2450 and 1095, 1800 and Trago, all of 1095 south of 52. That should be 152 to Snow Hill was mowed due to the requests that were sent in last week. Both mowers have been out mowing all week and grading took place daily. Pleasanton shop grading, mowing 1100, removal of beaver dams and waterways, and working to complete the John Deere and get that going for the south shop. The tractor, one of the 2 was a New Holland, which was 319 that went down in the south shop. I sent you some photographs of those. That's a 2018 New Holland that was purchased in 19 for the original purchase price of $67,750. You can see the mechanics' comments on this piece of equipment that was pulled down. Noting oil leak the operator did from a PTO shaft on the tractor. Upon removal and inspection, found gears, bearings damaged for the PTO output shaft. The inner PTO shaft bearing has been damaged long enough to cause damage to the tractor's axle housing, requiring replacement axle housing parts. Approximately 9,700. And that's not knowing before it's completely broke down if there's any other damage deeper in the axle. 2 different dealers' labor quotes on this is going to be approximately $5,040. This would require removal of the cab and rear axle housing. Some of the parts would be on back order. At this point, we are just now bringing the John Deere this week out of the Pleasanton shop with the breakdowns as far as mowers and graders that we've had. So that tractor that we've had in there broke down and being put back together is just now coming out. We will have the New Holland and still have 2 mowers in the north shop. We will have that New Holland and John Deere in the south shop. So I don't believe there's a large rush to make a decision on this, but we do need to make a decision about this piece of equipment. It has 2,000 hours on it, is what I'm being told, which should be not be a lot of hours for that tractor. The mechanic is telling me he believes it should be serviceable well beyond 5,000 and well worth putting back together. But at this price, we're looking at over 15,000 to send it to the shop at this point to put it back together.
Haven't we had issues with those New Hollands when we first got them in 1918?
Now, this is the one that was upset 2 or 3 weeks ago, right?
That's correct.
Do you guys know about that?
No.
I think that's something we should be notified of myself when it happens.
Well, the mechanic advised me that the damage to this tractor didn't come from that incident, that this was a maintenance issue over a long course of time.
Was it leaking oil, is the way I understand it?
That's the way it was found this past week.
Yeah.
So how long has it been down? 3 weeks? 4 weeks?
No, this tractor hasn't been down. It was found on 7/15 to have the oil leak and pulled apart.
Do we have other mowers sitting around? It's not.
That's the one I'm talking about that was,
Do we have mowers?
yes, the one from the north shop came with a mower deck.
But do we have other mowers sitting that we don't have tractors for? Right now, I mean, is there mowers sitting here that?
Is there another bush hog to go on the back of a tractor?
There is one that was with this unit that would be sitting until this unit was brought back up, yes.
Well, I'll tell you, I don't know how you guys' neighborhoods are. Mine, we got landowners mowing the road ditches out where I'm at.
Yeah, me too. And I got a phone call about this morning too.
I reached out to we talked about John Deere. I reached out when Sean told me about this. We talked about this on text message this week, and I reached out to John Deere to see if there was any tractors available. And they do have one. And for $7,252 for 1 year, 350 hours. That's with insurance. The first oil change they will do, and they'll supply the oil for the second one. And that's $7,250 for 1 year. We can have a brand new tractor.
Do we have an operator to run that tractor?
We just started a mower in the south shop this morning, and I will make a recommendation here shortly for the last position, which is Pleasanton, for a mower in just a few moments for them to finish up and to get, that's going to put all of your mowers or seasonal mowers back in position, and each one of them currently with no breakdowns other than the one that we're discussing, that will put each one of them in a mower.
Do we have any other operators, any truck drivers, anything, mowers?
If they were available that day, depending on job task, there's possibility of putting them in a boom mower or a mower if one of the seasonal guys aren't here. I know the foreman, like 1100, Todd was out mowing it last week. When they have opportunities or have manpower, they send them out. The issue with the south shop has been the John Deere being broke down and still being put back together, and then the New Holland going down. So,
I mean, we have a special equipment fund. How come we don't just go rent one for the time being, lease one for short term?
That's what Jim's proposing.
No, I'm just for like 2 weeks.
This is for the 12 months for 350 hours. It'd be 12 months from the time we start. that's $20.72 an hour. And any hour you go over the 350, he said, if it was 20 hours, they might not charge you any extra, but if it went to 50 or so, it would be time and a half, which would cost you $31.08 an hour, every hour over the 350. You know, which we talked about it earlier, and I'd like to try one on the city. $7,252 don't even pay the repair bill, and that's,
So on our seasonal guys, what do they do if they're not in a tractor?
That's what they're hired for, is to run the,
So that we have somebody in a tractor right now. I mean, every position is in a tractor right now. Sounds like
I'm going to be asking to hire the last one, and one just started this morning. So after today, we would have all those positions hired, and after the one that we hired today finishes pre-employment, yes, we would have all those positions full, and each one of those positions would currently have a tractor to operate. We just would not have this one available should one of those go down.
So you're proposing, Jim, that we go ahead and lease a tractor. That gives us time to get this one fixed.
I'd like to lease one just to see and try it for a year and see what kind of, because the opportunity is there for us. And see how we get
See how
on.
it works.
See how it works for us.
I think with the breakdowns and everything that we've been having, I think it is an issue that needs.
We can call Brandon if you'd like to. I'll talk to him. I mean, if you want to talk to him, he's glad to talk to us right now. The tractor's available, he said, if we want it. You can get a loader. If a loader interested everybody, it's $1.80 an hour for a loader on the front of the tractor.
I don't think we want a loader on the tractor. Do you, if we're mowing?
So
I'm just saying it's available to them if I need it. I mean,
to fix this one, you said it's 15,000. Is that what you said? Or
Correct at this point, yes.
Is this just a straight lease, not a lease purchase?
that's just a straight 1 year lease.
Because if we get into lease purchase, there's a whole different set of forms. we
It's
have to look
just
at.
a lease is the way I understand it, and it's insured. It's $1,000 deductible if anything except fire. If it's a fire, it's a $5,000 deductible. But it's $1,000 on any cosmetic or damage due to the body.
for some reason, I'm thinking on those, you said it's New Holland, right?
If it went down, yes.
For some reason, I'm thinking back in 19, we had big issues with those on the brakes or something. I can't remember. David, do you recall?
I believe you're talking about the LSs.
Oh, is that what that was?
That was a model built specifically in one plant and a lower grade unit from what I was told. I don't know anything about the tractor itself, but I was told there was a lot of issues with the LSs because of the quality in the build.
This is a 6120M. I mean, you can get bigger tractors, but they're not available. They don't have one available right now. But this one is available.
But it would handle our bush hog.
Yeah.
I'm in favor of us going ahead and leasing a tractor to make sure that we've got mowers on the road, as long as we have people sitting in the seats.
I'm in favor of it too.
I am too, because we need to get the roads moving.
What do we do with a piece of equipment that's down right now? I mean, 15 grand, that's two tractors.
On the lease.
If you about got to fix it in order to sell it. I mean, if we decide to sell it, but I mean, I don't guess we have to fix anything right now, do we?
I think we should go ahead and fix it.
What's it worth? Fixed.
It original purchase price was $67,750.
It's got two.
Now, that's a 19 with 2,000 hours on it, so
2,000 hours in the hours.
you would know a lot more about what that piece of equipment's worth than I would.
50, 60,000. Still worth 50, 60,000.
The way tractors are, I'd say it probably is, but I haven't checked on.
Right. I haven't
Find out.
looked either, but I'm just ballparking you what
So-
it's still worth.
Jim had mentioned it being tipped over. Was that is there an insurance claim on it? Anything like, I mean, nothing was,
No, what had occurred was the operator went into a ridge or hill crest, mowing a steep ditch, and the unit set down into the ditch, and he couldn't pull it out of it. It was pulled back up, and put on the roadway. The mechanic checked it on site. There was no damage to the unit, although at the time I didn't know whether there was damage, so an accident report was completed and drug testing was done by the employee. But it wasn't reported because once they got it out of the ditch, or reported to you, once they got it out of the ditch, they couldn't find any damage to it whatsoever.
So it wasn't really laid over on its side. It just
No,
got stuck.
It went up and settled into the ditch on its side and couldn't pull itself out. So once they pulled it, they reported to me that there was no damage. Now, that's what was reported at the time. The mechanic that pulled this New Holland apart is telling me that this damage is not related to that.
I'll make a motion that we enter into a lease agreement with John Deere for one mower tractor at $7,252 for 350 hours for 1 year.
Is it something we want Sean to talk to Brandon about, or
You can have his telephone number.
he's the spokesman that came in, right?
Yeah, and like I said, if you want to talk to him, I'll call him right now if you want to talk to him.
Do you need to talk to him? Do you guys want to talk to him? Do you want to talk to him?
Good with just moving
I'm
forward.
good with moving
Okay.
forward too, but
You can have that, Sean, and you can reach out to
We
him.
had him come in, we talked about the program. It's, right? I mean,
He's been here and talked to us about it before. I mean, he did
right.
My only question would be whether what you want me to pile the lease paperwork up and bring it in next week, or just go ahead and sign it.
yeah, you want him to just get
And allow Sean to sign.
I'm good with that. I mean, I've got the price of it written down there, and if there's any question, you can call me. I mean, as far as, we can talk about it, but you guys can look at that. That's what I wrote down.
good with it.
Okay.
And it does have insurance. I mean, we can verify that through Sean to make sure the insurance is there. But what I understood is it's $1,000 deductible on any cosmetic. It might drop to $750 on some things, but then if it was a fire, it'd be a $5,000 deductible. Theft and everything else is at $1,000.
We have a motion to purchase and do, with that, allow Sean to do it, and I'll second that motion. Motion been moved and seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Now, do we want to move forward with the other piece of equipment now, or Sean, it's going to a dealership, you said, right?
Yes, that would be through a dealership.
What dealerships did you check?
They checked too, but I don't have the price quotes from them. That was late last week. I don't have the hard copies.
Do you want to get that information and bring it in next week?
I can.
You guys good with that?
That'd be fine.
I don't think there's a big rush with the one we moved down and the other one coming out of the shop. I don't think there's a big rush on that. Okay, the next was to hire Taryn Ogden for a part-time mower in Pleasanton at 3D, which is 127415.
I'll make a motion that we hire Taryn Ogden for a part-time mower at the Pleasanton shop for 3D at 12.7415.
I'll second. Motion been moved and seconded. How do we train these guys to mow? I mean, we just don't put them on a tractor and say, here you go, do we?
No. Shop foreman or an operator is the one that trains them. The first training they get in almost every shop is to service the piece of equipment, to grease, oil, and service the equipment. Then they follow a mower or work with another operator and then learn to bring it back and clean that piece of equipment. And once they're confident that they can service the equipment and safely operate it, then they're followed and released slowly into that operating themselves.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I've got several budget items to include the park, which we've got information on software and gates. I'll get with you when we do the budgets. Senior Center, Butler door came over this week, but the door wasn't in as the last I checked last week. Blinds are up, covers are on, back room's finished. A meeting tomorrow with the seniors to plan the final move. Parts of the items are over there, but some of the large appliances have not been moved over yet. And some of the kitchen cookware items or dishware hasn't been moved over. So I'm going to meet with them over here, look at things in storage, make sure we only move what's necessary to move over. Once we get done with that, we are going to have several large pieces of commercial kitchenware that we're going to have to deal with at a later date. Bread racks, mixers, large pots, commercial cookware, things of that nature. But at this point, I think the focus is to get with them and determine what they need moved over and what is not going into the new building.
Are you just meeting with the manager of the site, or are you?
The manager of the site and a couple others that are assisting her.
It sounds like a lot of equipment because it's just a delivery site with keeping the mills warm.
That's correct. We're talking about the refrigerator. What was moved over already was all of the fold-out tables, chairs, some stainless tables for the back room.
This was the stuff that came out of our old senior center.
Yes.
Not new stuff we're purchasing.
Oh. And the things we're talking about, aside from the refrigerator and freezer, everything else is just either seasonal decorations or kitchen dishware and small things. But it's things we have to go through with them in order to determine what we will and won't move. The rest, the commercial stuff, we'll have to deal with it at another point.
And we're still planning to be in there before the end of the month, or?
That's pending that door, and Randy is getting with Mike to look at the locations to hang the fire extinguishers and post the signage on the doors for exits today. So
I would really like to have them in before, or right at the end of the month, before August, so.
we will be working, that's the majority of my week this week. We'll be working with them and working to move items over and then working to find out where we're at with the door and the occupancy. So until we go through budgets, that's all I had for you for currently.
Darren?
Darren Wilson, Planning and Zoning Director. I need 10 minutes of executive session for non-elected personnel. And it doesn't have to be right now.
While you're up there, you got anything happening in your department? Everything going okay?
Everything's good.
Have you got anywhere on the permitting software stuff?
Yeah, me and Chris is gonna probably get together this week to make it live on our website. And that will be, so it'll be phases. It will be building permits, nuisance complaints, sanitation. And then I'm starting training this Wednesday for the zoning side of it.
July, or what is it, July, when's the?
30th.
July 30th, 7 o'clock at Prairie View High School at the Performing Arts Center.
No special instructions for that, just show up and,
They're going to allow 2 minutes to speak. Basically, that's it. Basically, it's just a public hearing. So I think they're going to group them up again and do proponents, opponents, and neutral, just so they can keep everything straight when they're taking their notes.
Then once that's done, how long is it before it comes to us?
So they will meet August 13th to discuss it, make their findings, and if they make their findings and make a vote on the 13th, I'll be able to bring it to you on the 20th. I think that's what that calendar says.
13th will be Tuesday, so you bring it to us on the 19th.
19th, yes.
August 13th will be their meeting. Good.
Anything else?
No, not right now.
All right. Well, I'll make a motion to go and do executive session for 10 minutes with Darren Wilson for non-elected personnel, returning at 9:45.
I'll second it.
Motion been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Just wait till you get it done, it's fine.
Do what?
We do have a little bit of action from executive session. Go ahead, Darren.
Commissioners, I'd like to recommend that the commission hire Mark Hagan as the codes court attorney for nuisance violations.
Now, this was an altogether position for the county council. He took care of that too originally, right?
Yeah, originally the county councilor took care of everything. With the absence of a county councilor, we can't move forward with codes court. There's been some phone calls made due to that. And with hiring him, we would be able to proceed with court without any interference of having a county councilor or the lack of.
And he's already familiar with all the cases and everything like that and volunteered to
Correct.
volunteer, but he threw his name back in the running for it. So I don't have an issue with it.
I don't either. I'll make a motion that we hire Mark Hagan to do our codes court.
I'll second. Motion been moved and second. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thanks.
I do have one resolution today, if you want to get that taken care of. Sheriff sent that out last week. Basically, it amounts to retiring the K-9 that Tanner Ogden's had for years. And this is a fairly normal procedure. When a K-9 retires, they typically leave it with the person that's taking care of it. And
10-year-old.
yeah,
I'll make a motion, we approve resolution 2024-22, the declaration of surplus property. Be it resolved that for UWE, a K-9 shall go to handler Sergeant Tanner Ogden for retirement.
I'll second it.
Then it says the equipment will assist in the housing cage will also surplus and become property of Sergeant Tanner or Ogden to assist in the care for the K-9.
Okay.
Other equipment will be returned. So we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That's all you had, David.
Yeah.
Burton, are you here for? All right.
Burton Harding, County Attorney.
Burton.
Budget for 2025, absolutely, well, almost nothing has changed. All the figures are exactly the same except for the capital outlay. I had asked for a little bit more money last year because I needed a copy machine. We got that copy machine, so I don't need that fund anymore. So actually, my budget's down about $6,000 from what it was this year. But again, no changes in any other line item.
Does it include the 3% COLA?
This does not include the 3% COLA, no. I'm sorry, I should know that at the top.
Can you just go over what your office does, what you guys have been working on, things like that?
Sure. Well, obviously, my office is responsible for the criminal prosecution in the county, as well as some civil stuff, child native care cases, and that sort of thing. What was the second part of that question?
Oh, just describe what you do, what you need money for, what your office.
So the money is primarily salaries. We've got a county attorney, an assistant county attorney, and right now I've got three and a half support staff. So that's what that number represents. We have a line item for $30,000 for contractual. That I think includes I think we set aside $10,000 for trials and preliminary hearings, or for $10,000 I think is for trials. The $20,000 remaining is for witness subpoenas, sheriff service, travel vouchers, training for staff, and that sort of thing. Commodities and also we contract with the Attorney General's office to do things like our appeals, and certain things like that. The commodities is our paper, equipment, things of that nature.
Is the court-appointed lawyer budget, is it underneath you, or is it his own fund?
No, that would be through the
District court budget.
court. Yeah.
Oh, it's on the district court one. Burton, I know here, was it last year that we had a dramatic change in the middle of a budget?
Yeah, last year or the year before, I don't remember
Oh,
which
was it?
one.
Yeah, I can't remember either. Anyway, I think it was last year, sometime after the budget was set. Can you speak on that a little bit? So I was out of town when district court presented their budget, and everybody acted like no one knew what that was about. Can you explain what happened there? Why your budget went up so much in the middle of the cycle? And
Sure. So what had happened is when I took office, the judges we had at the time kind of had their dockets consolidated to a couple days a week. And so my assistant and I would reliably be in court a day and a half or so per week to cover those dockets, which gave us a couple days to be in the office and prepare for court, as well as some time to manage a private practice. Whenever that time period that last year came up, we got a new judge. Actually, we got several new judges, and they had different philosophies and different ways they wanted to calendar things and set things. And it changed from being in court a day and a half to 2 days a week to we were in court virtually every single day, and not only in court every day, but oftentimes we have two judges going at the same time, and we were expected to have two attorneys there at the same time to cover all the dockets and all the cases. So there's a dramatic increase in the amount of time we were spending in the office and court, and I needed additional help to cover all that. At the time, I told you guys that what I thought needed to be done was to convert this into a full-time position, paid as a full-time position. County attorneys, I think every surrounding county, including Missouri, make well over six figures to do this job. So I suggested that you bump the pay to that and get someone to do the job in that capacity. And I offered my resignation at that time. And you guys took that advice. That's what you did. You authorized a payment of, I think, up to $120,000 a year for a full-time county attorney. Well, no one came forward willing to do the job at that time for that price. So I came back and said, well, I will step back into the role and I'll do it. But I don't want you to pay me that money because I'm not taking it on full time. I need basically to pay my assistant more to be here 30 hours a week or whatever it was, which is about what it is, to come up and do that role. So that's how it got to be bumped up.
And I mean, you don't have to answer this, but I don't feel we didn't have that issue over here at the old judicial building.
No.
And do you think it's because we had an extra courtroom over here that was available?
Well, I mean, I guess it's part of it because we have two courtrooms, so that gives the district court the ability to have two judges and run two dockets at the same time. But really, again, I think it was more just a difference of philosophy of the judges wanting to set court basically every day of the week and again, double up sometimes. But even without the second courtroom, there would still be a pretty big increase in demand on time because again, they're in court every day.
And what is the pay for the county attorney and the assistant now?
I don't know for sure. I think mine is 95 or 96 and the assistant is 84, 85.
And what I was upset was it came in the middle of a pretty busy time for us. It wasn't ever talked about. It wasn't discussed. It wasn't nothing. It was just kind of dropped on us. I just don't see how we had to, take all that. I don't understand. I mean, by statute, we only have to provide one courtroom, right?
I believe that's right.
Do you feel everything's running efficiently right now, or how do you?
Yeah, I feel like things are going pretty well right now. We've got, I guess I don't have any complaints. Things are operating smoothly. I don't have any problems to bring to you.
How many hours a week do you spend in your job now, Burton?
Well, it depends on the week, but I'm usually there all day Tuesdays. Come in half a day afternoons on Mondays. Well, often have court Thursdays and Fridays. I mean, in court or in the office, maybe 20 hours a week. And then outside of that, emails and texts and phone calls with law enforcement and attorneys and that sort of thing, another 5 to 10 hours or so.
So 25 to 30 is what you're saying?
Probably about right.
What's your assistant? How many hours do you think he spends?
I think it's probably about the same.
Is there a way we can stop this from occurring again? I'm not saying it will. I don't know. I just don't want it to. It was a kind of a pretty dramatic deal.
I mean, I don't think there's much more. Again, we went from, like I said, a couple days a week to every day with the week. I don't know that they can't be in court much more than that. So I don't really expect or anticipate that there'd be another dramatic increase in time unless our caseload just flew off the handle and we had double or triple the amount of cases. Then I'd need extra help for that. But I don't anticipate that happening anytime soon. And
you got any more thoughts on it? I mean, and it was just kind of dropped right on you. I mean,
it was, yeah. Again, it was a deal where I think we kind of tried to make do as long as we could, but we just in the middle of the year, we had, again, massive increase in demand on our time and hours in court and preparation. And I didn't want to bring that to you guys. And I offered to step aside to try to remedy that, but it didn't work out that way.
One thing, and I'm going to ask you this, you'd probably say you don't know, but I would like to move over that extra courtroom every Monday. I would like to have commission meetings moved over there for the safety of us. I mean, look what just happened with Trump. I think it's important. Our lives matter too. And I think that we interfere with a lot of people here that are trying to do their daily job. They only get about 4 days a week. How would that mess up anything over there? Do you know?
Well, right now we have a magistrate judge who holds court there. I guess I can't say her schedule for sure, but I think it's about every Monday, if not every other Monday. So that would displace that judge, and I'm not sure how they'd handle that, but I don't know. I guess I wrestle maybe a little bit, I should say, but I mean, I think it's your courthouse. I mean, you built it. There is a judge who uses it on Monday mornings, but that's kind of your prerogative, I guess.
I mean, just a thought. So, you guys got anything?
I don't.
I don't have anything else. Any big changes in office, anything like that? I mean, obviously, you're not running again, but I mean, you guys got any big projects you're working on this coming year? Anything that anybody needs to know about?
I don't think so. I mean, obviously, there's going to be staffing changes next year, but that's the next guy's issue to deal with, I suppose. We're still dealing with that Tanglewood issue that we had the last year. We've been trying to bring that to trial for a few months now, but there are issues with the defense attorney right now that he's trying to resolve with the disciplinary committee in Topeka as far as representing all the defendants, and that has been a massive drag on it as well. The defense attorney had filed a motion to consolidate those cases, which I did not object at the time because that way we could have one trial and instead of 13 or 15. I thought that would be a big waste of county resources to have 15 trials if we could have just one. So I agreed to it. It turned out that that wasn't going to be possible because to bring in the jury pool that would be needed for that many defendants, that building wasn't big enough for a jury pool of 15 defendants at one time. It would have been in excess of 100 or close to 200 people. So the Judge Purvis had recommended that we break them up into 3 or more different trials, which kind of defeated the purpose. So again, we're kind of working through that issue right now. It's delayed things, but we're hoping to get that to trial before the end of the year. If not, hopefully first part of next year.
So your budget last year was $388,360. This year you're asking for a decrease of roughly $6,000 to
That's correct without taking into account the COLA change. Yes, that's right.
So you're asking for $382,360.
Yes.
You guys got anything?
I don't.
I'll make a motion that we tentatively approve the county attorney's budget at $382,360 as a decrease from last year.
Without the COLA. I'll second that motion.
Motion been moved and seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank
Thank
you
you very much. You guys have a good day.
We'll go ahead and open it up for public comment if you guys are okay with that. Good with that? 10 o'clock, and then we'll bring Sean back after that. Oh. Right now, we'll open up for public comment. Come up, state your name and your comments, and we'll go from there.
Tom Kemper, Parker, Kansas. First of all, I want to thank Jim for doing something positive, looking for tractors so we can get this mowing problem solved. The other thing I didn't realize till I read the Linn County Journal last week, how many hats Jessica wore. Then she's no longer around because of harassment. Got a question of how long you think it's going to take, or number one, do we have anybody cross-trained in her position? Because that's going to drastically hamper what Sean does, which is another harassment case. I just want to know how we're going to get around this so that we can keep people moving in the right direction. I also want to know when we're going to get a lawyer hired to keep us from going off the rails to control some of these pending lawsuits that are coming this way. Anyways, we seem like we're always trying to save money, which I totally agree with. But then if we're going to get ourselves set up in potential lawsuits or harassment or grievance processes, how much money is that going to cost our insurance company, of which we're paying the premium? Let's see, what was my next thing? Oh, the other thing is last month it was brought up about maybe getting a county administrator, which I think is a great idea. That would help us out. A couple of counties were mentioned. I might also mention that those counties also have 5 commissioners. That might make it easier one positive about that is you could form committees and work outside. Okay. The other thing too, it makes it a little harder for people to work outside the meetings. Which I think, there's several core requests presently, and I'm sure there's several coming pending. Anyways, so I just wanted to bring that up. And then the other thing is, as we're looking forward, we're making a little money on this jail. If you study a couple of those counties that were mentioned last week, you'll also find that their ambulance services are either self-funded or partially funded, where I believe ours is not. Is that correct, David?
We contract our ambulance service.
Yeah, so we're not funding it at all. I believe Miami County, I believe Anderson County is partially funded by the county, but not completely. So that might be something you want to look at in the future. That's it.
What everything you've discussed, we've discussed over the last year. So if you want to go back to YouTube and check it out, we discuss it in detail. So of reasons of why we do stuff and why we don't. So, and we're only allowed to talk to each other up here. So we're not allowed to talk outside. So a lot of your questions, your claims about lawsuits, they don't even exist. So I don't know what, we're definitely trying up here. So it's easy to get up there and tell us what we're not doing, but we're trying hard up here. So here you get up there and just dig us every single time, every chance you get, it's not going to help the situation at all. Anybody else? All right, Sean?
I had a voicemail that I got while I was in here earlier, and it was a request for something we do every year for the tractor pull to allow a county employee, Mike Nation, to take a blade and a roller down and operate that for the county fair and the tractor pull. It's something I said we do every year. Our employees are the ones that operate it, and it's an operation done over the weekend that won't impair any of our operations or equipment needs.
I don't have an issue with it. We've done it every year since I've been here, so I know that.
I'm good with it.
Me too.
Okay, thank you. I think the easiest thing to do would go to the gates and the information that I sent on the software for the park. Sherry's pulled up this information and developed it as best she can through meetings with several of these companies. Firefly is an online camping service. It's cloud-based. $3.50 per reservation can be passed on to the campers, which does increase their cost. Credit card transactions, the lowest of three of their options is 2.9% of the transaction plus 10 cents per transaction plus $10 a month subscription. Can be passed on to the campers as well, which again increase their cost. An example would be a 50 amp full hookup costing $20 per night, 4-night stay is $80 plus $350 plus the 242 of the 2.9% credit card fee plus the 10 cents. And the fee would be brought up by the online camping from prior to the park making any more money. Just to go to online camping would increase the services or fee to the end user $6.02. To us, $10 a month subscription for the credit card processing and index gate system, add another 15 for the software Firefly. Total yearly cost to the park would be $300 for those services if we passed all the other service fees on to the user. The initial setup for the gate system would be 3 cameras at $3,300. A 12-month subscription would run you $1,342.44. The initial cloud setup fee would be $498. Total setup for the first year would be $5140.44. Thereafter, it would be $1342.44. The recommended supplier for the gates, 2 gates, entry and exit, would be $68.80.32. Shipping would be $565.25 for a total of $74.45.57 on the gates, making the first year $12,000 with the gates and the software $12,886.01. Now, these numbers don't include running wire or electric to the gate locations. We don't know that cost, and we do not know the cost of the, because there's no internet at that shop that's close to that gate. We don't yet know the cost of the internet and what it would take to get the internet there and the monthly service cost for that to push it out to that gate.
What's your guys' thoughts on it?
We really don't know what the first cost is gonna be. Gotta figure that out, right? Internet and everything.
Yeah, I'm definitely in favor of the gates. I've been pretty vocal about that. I would really like to see this go in. I think it would help us out a lot. I feel like we lose out on a lot of revenue because we don't have nightly security. We don't have, all that stuff that everyone would have. I think it's the right direction, in my opinion. What's your guys' thoughts? Are you guys, do we want them to go out and get the pricing? Are you guys on the fence about it? Should we just?
I'm still on the fence about it.
Yeah.
That's $13,000 already coming out of there.
Spent 300,000 on the lagoons. It's not making us any money at all. I think this is an area that we can gain, some funds with. And it makes the worker's job easier. I feel like, in my opinion, it makes our job easier. Focus on things that's going to be better for the park rather than having to go around and check, campsites and things like that.
One thing to note on this, and I'm sure it's somewhere in here, the warranty on those gates is a 2-year warranty. So, and it's parts only. They do diagnostics remotely. They ship those, and then we have to install any repair parts. But the gate system is 2 years for the warranty on it alone. And after that 2 years, there is no extension at this point on that warranty.
What do we charge to enter?
I believe there's a $5 daily parking fee. So that's your horse camp, that's your fisherman, that's anybody that doesn't rent a cabin or a campsite that comes in strictly to use the park for the day without any other services.
Do you feel like that a lot of people get away with not having to pull that pass?
I'm sure there are some that do. What the yearly totals would average, if you had, a rough estimate, in the height of the season, when we have the most traffic, if you had, 100 a year, through that heavy time that came in, fished, brought people in, did trail riding or other activities that didn't require a campsite. If we had that, then you're looking at that times 5. So do I know and can I know? Not unless we get a head count at the gate. There's just no way of
No, I get
getting
that.
an accurate number. So I'm taking a rough guess. As far as campsite usage, because of the kiosk, we can see how many sites are rented and what those sites are. So is it possible to come in the middle of the night, set up after we leave in the season and after 6 and be out of there before daybreak in the morning? I'm not saying it's not possible, but it's pretty hard to do, to set up a full camp and to pull up a full camp within those hours. Now, a car pulling in and backing up to one of our, a car or truck pulling up to one of those empty sites, plugging in their cell phone and using our shower facilities. I'm sure that happens occasionally through the season without our knowledge.
So the first part, we're going to pass those fees right along to the people staying there, right? So that's really.
That would be passed on to the end user.
Correct. So that's really no added expense to the park. It's just that the added expense to the park is going to be the gates.
The 12,000.
So the gates are going to be the 75, 74, 45, 57.
Just looking at this, to me, the math question is the number of rentals that added $6.02 on that type of stay. Is that better served to put this in and pay our share of the expense and pass it on to the user? Or is it better to increase those fees and take that money into the park using the system we have? And without sitting down and doing the numbers, I cannot answer that again. Without knowing what the loss is, or knowing how many lost revenues we have, it would be just a random summary of what's going on.
Right.
Yeah, I just feel like this is, everything we're talking about should be brought up during budget, and it's not. I think I'm in favor of the gates, and I think it'll help us move forward, keep up with time. It's not fair to the people that do, that are honest and they do pay their dues for people to come in and use the washer dryer, you know, the wash facility. It's just not, it's not fair. I think that, you know, it costs a little money to run a business, right? I think it'd be a good step. We'll generate some funds from it, I guess. Have we got anywhere, heard anything on the swimming?
I have not received anything back from the two committees or my contact since I sent that over.
How long will it take to get estimates for the trenching of the electrical line and the internet? Or do we have the cabin internet completed yet?
The cab internet is in. We made efforts to purchase the TVs to hang those and finish that project. And for other purchases that week, my card was maxed out, so I couldn't make those purchases. We'll make those this week. And then I would assume after the purchase, once we have those items in within the next couple of weeks, that project will be wrapped up.
At $5 a day, this is just for the gates. We would have to have 1,489 people not pay to make up the charge of just putting in the gates. It would be the 1,500 person before we would have.
30 to people a week. You said right at 1,500?
Yeah, before we would, and that's spread out. I mean, that could be over multiple years, but that's what it would take us at $5 per person.
How much would a restroom restoration job cost for the park up there? I mean, I just feel like that
The
I
restrooms,
know for a fact that people go in at night, there's drug deals there, there's all kinds of stuff. The gates need to happen. That's my opinion. So we can either do it or we don't. I mean, I want to do it. I think it's huge. I think it's for the safety of the worker there. She doesn't need to be going out around to every single person's truck and checking a tag. We're just really far behind there. I'm in favor of spending some money to get that park up going the way it needs to be. Right now, I think we're just barely hanging on, spending this money doing dredging lagoons that haven't been done in 25 years or ever. Next thing we're gonna know, we're gonna have to redo the bathrooms, the washer dryer station.
That's my concern, Danny, is we're pumping money into something that we don't even have a contract on. No, but we're actually putting money on the project that we don't even have a lease.
We do have a lease, don't we?
We
Didn't
do
we
have a
just-
signed lease now, yeah.
we,
We do have a signed lease now.
we do. That lease was for, I don't remember how many decades, but it did, the new lease allowed for reimbursement, the same as the old, for any infrastructure with the depreciation over the lifetime of the lease. So anything we put into it, if the lease is ended early on Evergy's part, then we would be reimbursed for any infrastructure upgrades to the property based on depreciation after the beginning of that.
What's the date on the end of the lease? Do you guys know?
I don't.
I don't remember.
That was before SharePoint, wasn't it?
I think so.
I believe it was well before SharePoint that we finished that lease.
Is there any way we can get that lease and look it over and
I can pull it out of my files.
new park lease? There it is. see any attachment. Everything I'm finding, I don't see an attachment for lease on it.
Pardon me?
Everything I'm finding doesn't have an attachment for it. Found a few emails, but it doesn't have anything attached. Sean, do you want to go pull that agreement? Do you have it on hand?
I should be able to pull it rather quickly.
Yeah, I'm not finding.
Would you like me to grab it now?
Yep. I'd like to get this issue taken care of. You guys got anything you want to talk about while he's looking for that? I just feel like the lake could be a good destination if we put a little time and effort into it and tried it out. Right now, David, what are we in the positive or park report?
Find it. Through the end of June, we were $7,000 ahead on the Parker.
Do we have any big ticket items that'll be coming out at the end of the year that's going to put us behind? I mean, what's our average? Are we in the positive or negative at the end of the year?
Well, usually it shows positive on that. The beginning of the year is when we have a couple of big ticket items that come out that throw us in the hole to start.
I want to say it averages about 40. Last year we transferred to 30,000 to equipment reserve, which brought that number down.
But this year we had the lagoons, which was how much? 100, or I can't remember. I'm going to throw in
100-some-thousand from the lagoon.
140 or something. And then we still have, it's still not completed. We still have the second part of it with all that rock. We don't include benefits there with none of that.
No, we don't.
So are we really in the positive?
Well, if you include benefits and all that, no. And I mean, really, at this point, there's not one county department that does make any money. I mean,
Yeah, no, I get that.
sheriff's office brings a lot of money in, but there's a lot of expense there. Solid waste brings some in, but we're not for-profit business and we don't make money on anything.
So we're gonna add more expense to it, and that's gonna increase our revenue.
I don't know, Jason, that's what I'm asking you guys. What you guys want to do here? I think the gates is a good idea. I think that it could potentially help us. I don't know. I'm not a fortune or a future reader, so I'm not going to say it's going to help or it's not going to help. If it doesn't, I will say that was a screw up on my end. I don't have an issue with that. But we have no damn plan at all at the lake. None. Zero. But we went out and spent $170,000 on, flip of a coin because they need dredged. But we have no plan. For 45 years, everybody thought you couldn't swim in the lake, right? Well, press the issue. Now you can swim in the lake. Please don't try.
Copy of the draft agreement. I couldn't get the signed copies because the S drive is not open enough for me right now.
So prior to this, we didn't have an agreement signed since wasn't like the 80s?
There's an expired agreement, that was decades old, but I can't tell you what the numbers on it are.
So that tells me we're still operating like we did. I'm sorry, I do run the county like a business. I'm spending money and it's everybody else. And I think if that's an ignorant way of looking at it, I apologize, but that's how I think. I think that we should be trying to run it like a business. I'm not saying that everything's going to make a profit. I know it won't, but
This is the extension. As I look through it quickly, this is the extension of that original agreement until the long-term agreement. Let me see if I can get the S drive open up.
I don't know what the dates are. This is the company's may terminate the agreement upon 2 years of prior written notice to the county. Land, Water, Conservation Act, and it requires the approval of the Secretary of the Interior for such termination. The county hereby agrees that the covenants and companies for
December 31st, 2036 is the
They can terminate it in 2 years, right, if they choose to anytime.
correct.
then they have to the shall pay the company or pay the county amount equal to the original cost less depreciation of 6.6 per year for the physical facilities.
That's what I read as well.
I found a first, and this is the second amendment of that park lease agreement
I think we found what we were looking for. Sean.
is the 2036. So this is the second version of that, just unsigned.
Right here, Sean, it talks about the swimming on number 4. It tells us where we can, the areas that we can designate, the area. I mean, it has to be subject to the reasonable approval of the company's additional signage, and the county obtain appropriate waivers and permission from KDWP. I don't understand, it doesn't say anywhere about doing an engineering study or anything like that.
And since the county may be allowed swimming at Leasing Lake, and the water is immediately adjacent to the property in an area designated as such by the county provided, and it goes through signage, buoys, designation subject to reasonable approval by companies, additional signage, and permission from Kansas Department of Wildlife and Parks. The reason we were looking at the possibility of engineering is because the approval process, not only by Kansas Wildlife and Parks, but by Evergy, was going to be by safety committee and legal. So we would have to have a proposal built to make this proposition to them. And that was our most recent question, whether a proposal alone would be sufficient. And that currently is out to legal and to the safety committee at Evergy, or their version of their committee, to answer those questions as to whether a proposal alone without engineering would be sufficient to make this proposal or proposition to them. And we've yet to have an answer to that.
Back to the gates, I think I just think it's one less thing that our worker needs to be worrying about, going around and checking every single morning if their tag's good, or if they had paid, or, trying to get in a confrontation with somebody that hasn't paid, that's trying to leave. It just seems more safe to me. It seems more logical. Gives her an opportunity to work on other things at the park. Safety of the campers, the full-time residents.
What do you think, Jim?
Like I said, we still don't have a final cost of what the whole thing cost to install the gates, right?
Right. You want to get that?
Before I vote on it, that's what it'd be. I want to know what it costs.
How long will that take, Sean?
I'll have to reach out to IT to find out what we'll need for connectivity. He'll have to do the background on the equipment and know what it requires. And then research the equipment available for that. And at the same time, we can reach out as far as the power necessity. I'm thinking you're looking 2 to 4 weeks, best guess. But from the numbers I'm seeing here in your capital outlay, even if that cost came in, say that cost added $6,000 to the initial first year of this, if you implemented it, we would push out a vehicle purchase and pull it out of capital outlay. So I don't think it should affect the tentative
The current budget.
budget approval. I think we would move things around rather and absorb that cost for that first year, rather than increase that budget. But certainly if you want me to reach out, I will start that process as quickly as I can.
We do still have money in equipment reserve for park that could be utilized too. If we need to.
How much is in there?
Well, there's 44,000 in there at the moment.
We paid for the lagoon already?
I don't remember if we've got anything. We may have some odds and ends on the piping and stuff. I don't.
We haven't paid all the bills on the piping yet, the second installation on the second cell. But all of that was,
Costs for the cleanup and everything is all paid already.
yeah. So,
Get those added costs and then make our decision.
Any more discussion on it? No?
Nope.
So we can just try to get cost on that as soon as possible.
I'll start working on it.
Just reach out to we're not doing no engineering study or not like that. We're just reaching out to local contractors, right? And trying to figure out what
We're reaching out to Evergy to find out what their requirements are going to be to make that proposal.
so we'll be 3 months before we hear from them. I don't understand. Does it not state in here that we can do that type of stuff?
Well, the last discussion we had on it was to reach out to our contact and ask them if we could forego any engineering and ask them exactly.
I'm talking about the gates.
He's talking about the gates. Do we ever
Oh.
have engineering or anything that way on the gates?
Engineering, no, there's nothing on that I'm aware of. Now, electrical and data or connectivity, yes.
Just a little update on the equipment reserve. On the spreadsheet, I hadn't updated from June's expenses yet. We actually spent roughly 6,700 of the park capital equipment reserve in June on lagoon
Piping,
piping and there were some, looks like some supplies from Stainbrooks along with it too, but there's still over 37,000 in there.
How much of that goes in there typically every year? Does it just matter? Does it?
No, it's what's left in budgets that, or is transferred at the end of the year, and that all comes to the commission before the transfers are made. I mean, it varies a lot from year to year.
Like I said, we put in 30,000 last year. Right? Am I remembering correctly, or am I?
There was 35 for equipment and then another 9 from contingency for the park on part of that lagoon project.
All right, well, moving on. Go ahead.
Okay. The next thing was Road and Bridge. I've already presented the original budget proposal to you. The only addition to that or change to that would be for an assistant director. And that would be in payroll. And that would be contingent on how we hired out for that position. If we hired out for an assistant director and then separately hired out for economic development, then we would have to pay for that assistant director out of Public Works. I rebudgeted the figures for that. And the total for payroll would have went up from 275,000 to 1,335,000. Because I do not know what it will take to hire an assistant director. The other question is, do we hire an assistant director or do we hire an assistant for the director instead of an assistant director, just someone to aid me in that background if we're able to find someone? And I can't answer what we'll be able to find of the two, which one we will find or be able to hire for that position. So I would recommend you change the road and bridge budget total to $4,739,500, with that being the only change from the original presentation that I gave you.
Did any of the income or the salary come from the road and bridge, from the assistant we had before? Did any of her?
All that was paid through economic development. She just had a contractual agreement through that, and there was no salary that I'm aware of that came out of road and bridge. She just had other assigned duties. But I'm very reserved to think that we would get someone to do both positions.
I feel like the position should be separated anyway. I feel like economic development, there's more than plenty to keep a full-time position with no extras. I don't know if she would want to speak on that or not, but give us her opinion on it.
He's not here today.
Or she's not.
I would think that, yes, I would prefer that the two positions be separate. The question again would be, do we hire an assistant director or a assistant to the director, depending on the qualifications of the people that we find?
Well, even with your job description, Sean, I feel like that there's too many things that's put on you, that's more than road and bridge, and I feel like that it's a good time for us to figure it out.
There is a large amount of tasks that are not road and bridge, and I think if you remember when originally I was hired, I made a recommendation that we ask K-Camp to do a job study and look at what jobs should be assigned or typically assigned to a road and bridge supervisor and what would be a county administrator's duties, because I thought the two were shuffled in what I was looking at that time. And it would be, that would be a question to David, whether or not K-Camp would be able to provide those services, but job studies are typically within their purview, I think.
Camp or KAC?
I'm sorry, KAC.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Association of Counties.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
getting mixed up between municipalities, counties, and our insurer.
Yeah, and I would think they could give us that kind of information.
That's typical. I know the same associations that dealt with municipalities did that in cities for local agencies, but I think that would be a starting point to have someone recommend how to break that out for you. And I believe if David reached out to him, you'd find out that that's a service that they readily provide at little to no cost.
I mean, I don't feel like we have time on our side anymore. We're in turnover rate within the county's not good. I feel like that nobody's going to know it better than us three up here. So, and everybody working together, I think we can organize it the way we want to do it. I mean, don't you guys think? How do you feel about it? I feel like we have to do something. I mean, Tom's right. We're sitting here without a legal counsel for the second time since I've been here. I feel like this is a good opportunity for us to reorganize it the way we need to do it or want to do it. I feel like Sean has too much on his plate. We ask him to do too many things. I feel like the economic development developers that is totally separate than road and bridge. I don't think they should be even in the same category of working together, being an assistant, nothing like that. I think there's enough economic development in the county that's a full-time job in its own. If we go back to the comprehensive plan, we spent $60,000-$70,000 on it, and we approved it. And number one thing it says in there, we should have a county administrator or such. Call it whatever we want, but if we don't agree with that, I don't know why we approved the comprehensive plan.
Where would we pay for the county administrator position out of? Where would move into courthouse or what?
I would think that would be in the general fund somewhere. It'd probably be a new line item that we have no budget.
What kind
for at
of,
this point.
right, but what kind of support staff would they require?
And again, that's going to depend on what all duties you're going to put on them. Because that can vary widely too.
Yeah, I mean, and this is kind of what I wanted out of the budget this year was for people to come to explain to us, what they do and don't like about their position, their policy. An ideal budget to me would come with 3 different plans, 3 different numbers, and then at the end of the budget, we all sit down and we figure out which department can, utilize the biggest change, biggest amount of money, and that's how I plan. Not just bringing in a piece of paper and giving us one number. That's not a budget to me. And I've been very vocal on that. But then people sit back and we, get our ass ate out up here because we're not doing our job. Well, I assure you, I do my job more than I do my full-time job.
I'd like to see to go to one road foreman myself, to where we get everybody doing the same, got, everything the same throughout the county.
And that's kind of what I wrote down on the plan that I kind of just jotted down. Move all, or kind of have a one. Well, have one supervisor and then 2 leadmen throughout the county.
What I drew up, you guys can look at that. It's just something, I'm sure I forgot things, but.
My plan looks like crap.
Yeah.
Jason, thoughts? So here Jim had made up his plan about kind of just the roles of the county administrator would be bridge inspections, building maintenance, the transportation buses, planning and zoning, leasing park, landfill, and then the senior mills citizen program. And then road foremen have 3 lead men that are over daily operations of grading, mower, and truck driving, and then the sign men. And economic development director would deal with the airport and economic development. I think that's a really good start, I think. David, do you want to throw your 2 cents in on the county administrator part? Like what duties you
What
do?
you've got there, to me, you're really listing more of a public works administrator position than a county administrator, unless you're gonna get into HR and payroll, accounts payable. I mean, a lot of that kind of stuff goes to county administrators in most counties that have one. But then you're probably talking about a lot higher salary if you're taking on all those duties too. So, I mean, it's terminology as much as anything.
Right, the wording I used for
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
But there's a whole lot more duties that a county administrator could do than just that.
And I think it's a good start. I mean, David, you, beyond, what you're elected in to do, what could fall under the county administrator that you do, that the next person doesn't have to do if they didn't want
Like I
to?
said, the HR part of it, a lot of county administrators do that. In some places, payroll and accounts payable are done by the administrator's office. I mean, that's just something we need to work out if we're gonna look at going this direction, is what are they gonna take on?
But then if we do that, then are you gonna give up employees?
Well, I would probably, I mean, if we did all of that, yeah.
You give up employees to put into somewhere else.
I mean, that's why we need to figure out what are we looking for before we just
Right.
go grab something or try to hire somebody.
I think this is a pretty good start. I mean, I would like to go that direction. And then we can build it how we want, really. I mean, but I feel like that, right now Sean is the county administrator, if you will, beyond the HR and payroll. He deals with everything else. And I just feel like that our road and bridge is too big to be trying to do that. So, Sean, what do you think?
Like I said, I think when I got hired, that discussion came up, and I recommended at that time that we do a study. That study would also make recommendations about organizational charts, additional staffing needs. Typically, and I come from a background in a municipality, where a city administrator, the majority of his staff is the directors. There's not a lot of additional staff, but it's an organization of one mission, one plan for all of the directors moving forward, and that those assignments are pushed out to departments rather than to staff members, if you will. And I believe it would work similar here, where a county administrator would organize those staff, have staff meetings, push out the intent of the commission to those directors, and those directors would answer back to him for completion and task management of all of those staff and those employees. As far as the staff that it takes to do this and breaking those departments apart, I would highly recommend we break those departments apart. And I think if you look back over the course of the time that I've been here, I would be lying if I said I didn't struggle every week to accomplish what we're trying to accomplish or what this board's intention is, because I spend a day here and then I spend 4 days trying to accomplish the mission. And one of those days is organizing the report for this meeting. So you're looking at anywhere from a 4 to a 3.5 day work week that I actually get to put on task And that's separated between 3 road and bridge departments, noxious weeds, solid waste, the park, building maintenance, transportation, elderly, GIS, which is mainly payables or payroll. And I know I'm forgetting another department. Well, you've still got planning and zoning codes and sanitation and economic development, the airport also under myself. So when you divide up all of those departments, it makes it very difficult to focus. One person or one individual should probably not supervise effectively more than 5 to 7 directors or department heads or frontline supervisors. Once you get beyond that, quite frankly, in departments like GIS, if Pam wasn't working independently and all I had to do is sign her payables and her payroll, I effectively give her little or no assistance. She doesn't really need it, but how long before that changes and we end up transitioning to newer supervisors in those department roles, and they need more adequate supervision and direction in those departments to get their mission accomplished. So I would again encourage you to reach out if you're looking at this and ask for assistance, if not a job study, at least the overview and guidance of someone that has reorganized a county and knows how this structure works better than I.
So here's just some more things to keep in mind when you're talking administrator, and some of this may be, again, with the terminology, if you want an actual administrator or you just want some type of manager. But KSA 19.3A talks about procedure to establish the office. And there, according to this, 2 ways or 3 ways. Okay, the Board of County Commissioners may adopt a resolution establishing the office of county administrator. They may adopt, that's one way. You may have a resolution submitting it to the voters to vote on whether or not you have that office. And then the third way is from a petition of 5% of electors of the county to the commission would cause an election. So you could do it by resolution, or there's 2 options there where it could go to a public vote on whether or not to have an administrator. And then if you read on through that.
But since we've already had the public vote, would be the comprehensive plan.
Well, no, this was talking about an election with that question on it. That's what it's going for. That doesn't say you have to do that. The first one is just the commissioners doing a resolution. But then 19-3A04 talks about powers and duties of an administrator. And there's several things listed there.
I don't think it's something that we can just keep pushing down the road. I think that it's pretty evident that it needs to change one way or another. And we can throw in every excuse and every reason not to do it, or we can sit down and start to get it done and figure it out. So.
So what would something like this cost? What kind of, I mean, isn't that something we should be looking at?
Well, I think our number 1 question is, do you guys want to do it or not? Second question is, let's figure out how we want to do it and put a plan together, and then we can come up with a cost.
I don't mind reorganizing, but I tell you what, as far as growing the government, that's not what I'm here for. I mean, we restructure the way we got our manpower, but as far as just putting a lot more people, that's not my intention. What do you think?
I'm in agreement with that.
I mean,
I don't know how I can decide on whether I want it or not, Danny, without knowing what it's gonna cost, how it's gonna affect our budget, how it's gonna.
I 100% agree with that, but we don't even have a starting place right now. We just talk about it.
Okay.
You know, we throw out ideas.
We do have a starting place. We have this form right here that Jim presented.
But what I'm thinking is with the road department, if we had one road boss and he answered directly to us, or we had one, that would take a huge amount of work off Sean's job, I think.
Okay.
Where we had one road boss and then he managed the county.
I agree with that. We call him road supervisor pretty much.
I mean, I put the road.
No, I get it.
I mean, to me, that would be a huge step we could take right there and get the whole county, because other counties our sides do it. You know, you go to Miami County, I think they have one, you know, Anderson County does, Coffee County, Bourbon County, I think they have one.
I just feel like with Sean's job description, everybody that isn't involved in everyday government like we are, they think that he's just kind of the road foreman and that he is, don't take it the wrong way, he gets his ass ate out all the time and think he's not doing his job. Well, he has all these roles going with it. And therefore he's not able to answer the questions that we always ask about the roads because he's not able to put in the time and effort that it deserves. So,
Well, that's why I think you want the one and then have him he's your direct report to us. And then like the bridge inspections and things could stay there, you know, as far as dealing with the engineering on the bridge inspections. And I don't know, that's my thought, but you know, let the road foreman be in charge of the maintenance
Of the roads.
of the roads.
and daily activity.
Daily activities, all
Not
that.
really just.
And then you're saying a lead man in each shop.
So we have leadmen there now, but I mean, we just make them a leadman and they're responsible. I mean, we'll have to give them more money. I understand that. But we're basically, by doing this, we're doing away with one road foreman, two road foremans really.
We're just reassigning those duties to the lead man. Right. I mean, that's what they would become. The person running those shops would be the lead man.
Well, we have an assistant supervisor there now. I mean, that's what they're an assistant, right, Sean?
I'm sorry,
An assistant supervisor in each shop right now.
there's an assistant or a lead, yes, below each one of the foremans in each shop, with the exception of, I don't think we officially have put one in Pleasanton, although when we moved Franklin over to asphalt before focusing on gravel roads, I think it's the presumption with his seniority and his pay that he does those duties daily, whether he's titled or not.
And, you know, and then since Sean's just exact job would just be the road, making sure that everything's going proper, they're moving forward, it's not our plan to sit up here and make a plan for the garages or for the barns. It's our job to make policy, not everyday activity. So that's the road supervisor's job. Because right now I don't feel like we have any plans of getting ahead. We're just trying to get by on everything we're doing.
So do we want Sean to go back and rework his salary budget under that format?
My question would be, with an assistant director, are you doing away with that or making this one foreman the assistant director and his duties being running the operations?
Yeah, the road supervisor.
I mean, if you're going to have three foremans or lead man or whatever you call them in the shops, and you're going to say that the assistant director's duties is not as assigned to help me manage all these other departments, but strictly to sit on the road and manage operations, then I think that's a doable
I think
change at this point.
I don't think it would take two people to do the road super. Is that what you're saying?
No,
Sorry.
no,
He's been an assistant. what you're as an assistant to. If we took that away from you, you might not need the assistant.
Oh, okay.
What I'm saying is if you reassign the duties as an assistant that Jessica did, instead of helping me manage all these other issues, buildings and everything else and taking my place when I'm gone, if you're looking to make a uniformed one operational supervisor, then now with that position open, that might be the opportunity to take that assistant director's position, make it a uniform supervisor over road operations, and then leave me all those other assigned tasks. Now, can I tell you currently with all those other assigned tasks, whether I can effectively do that without an assistant, not an assistant director, but an assistant to keep up with? I don't know. We're gonna have to sit down and look at it, but I can, if I was emailed the chart, I could redo it and see if I could accomplish that.
Copy of it there. You can look at, well, sorry about that.
Nope.
I would be in favor of moving forward that way.
We have an organizational chart that I could plug this into with a couple different options and possibly even denote job duties or assignments underneath it and bring it back to you. With what I've got this week, I can probably accomplish that by next week, and have that discussion.
Okay. Is that moving in the right direction?
I'm good with that.
So state that one more time. So in a sense, we're thinking a county administrator, if you will, with job duties with an assistant, right? And then just a road supervisor that's over the foreman that deals with nothing but the roads.
If you wanted to title that, yes. If you're saying you want you either title it as a road supervisor or public works supervisor with all the assigned duties that I currently have with all the other departments, with an operational.
I think we're over that, what we have going on now. I mean, I'd like to put a big X there in my opinion,
But as far as that goes, if you were talking, leaving me to do county administration and supervise all those departments with that assistant now becoming the road supervisor for all operations in those three shops, whether you called the foremans or leadmen in those shops, you left that structure in those shops and made this position that Jessica did, the operational supervisor, to answer directly to you. And then I worked with those directors in those other shops or other divisions to work on those, along with bridging, engineering, and still did not just leave the operational supervisor. I would still have direction over them. There's still going to be capital outlay projects and things that they would have hands on, but wouldn't spend their time doing the planning of.
Right.
So if you called that a county administrator, then I can put it on paper and you can put whatever you want to it to terminology, but I can put the assigned duties in the structure, and that may not increase your personnel roster. It may just give different assigned duties with what we have currently in openings and new assignments.
Okay.
But I think I understand the concept that you're talking about and can put it in a couple of different options in our job flow charts or
Like
supervision.
I said, the way I am, I don't mind restructuring everything, but I'm not into growing our employees, number of employees.
I agree. So good start.
Restructure the way what our job titles are.
And just separate stuff that doesn't need to be in that category. I mean, I like the roads only, with one guy over that deals with that only. But, and then the county administrator will be more in office type thing.
Okay.
Something on that next week, you said?
I'll push it out to you, or any other complications, I'll try to push it out to you by Friday morning.
Perfect.
So, one thing that I kept getting calls on this week was why graders were following each other And I'd reached out to Sean, and it's about training is what you'd stated. Is that, are we not able to put a guy in a machine with another one? And I mean, do we have to do the piggyback thing?
I don't believe you can safely put two guys in one machine, either a wheeled or a joystick. I don't think that's a safe way to do it. To watch the first operator and to follow that operator through it, and then for that first operator or trainer to go back and tell that person, okay, this is what you did good, this is what you did bad. There's going to be a little bit of learning curve, and I think not necessarily, I would have to reach out, but I don't think it's necessarily the maintaining operation as much as the focus on the ditching, that these guys are trying to teach them some techniques and skills that the newer guys have not yet become proficient at. So
I mean, is that something that we can work with the trade school there in Pleasanton with their simulators? Or do they not have anything like that?
we can, and I need to spend more time with Dr. Allen and reach out. But my understanding from sending Todd over to take a look at this program teaches a skill. And the first skill builds to the second skill. And these skills are more dirt working and operation of that machine as opposed to roadway maintenance. Is there a program or a design that would be more tailored to us instead of the operator's program that they're using, or can we pull from that? I have not had the time to work with Dr. Allen and look at that, but yes, to pull somebody instead of running tandem, have one operator still doing his job and send somebody over for 3 hours to work in a machine that would teach them that same job skill and still have that second operator out there with the facility that we have available to us, that would be a much better solution. But quite frankly, I don't have time to work on that right now. I just don't.
We've had people come to give training though ahead of you, and I mean like a 2 or 3 day deal, and there was older operators that went that really enjoyed what was happening.
Well, and
They learned.
we reached out for that, Jessica did, and I know Bourbon County reached out to me because of that, because they're having the same issue with turnover, and they will not even start scheduling until later in August. They just are not accepting any scheduling for that training that you're talking about, because we reached out earlier this spring and just couldn't get anybody, and neither can
So
Bourbon.
you say that it's more or less we're teaching them how to cut ditches and stuff. I mean, and that's what, you know, I don't like that we use the graders for that anyway. I think there should be a crew that does that. You know, I don't know. It's not very efficient to take, you know, we're already down hardcore and time and effort and energy and equipment on the rest of the roads, and we're taking a grader for a week and piggybacking off somebody trying to train them. I just don't think that's very efficient.
It'll be more efficient in the long term if we have two grader operators operating instead of just
We've been
one.
doing it for 40 years and nothing's changed. We're just in a bigger hole here now.
To tell you how that works, I would have to rely on the foreman as far as how they coach up these guys and train them, because as Jim pointed out, the official training or the training we brought in the past with outside instructors, we've reached out. It's just everybody's struggling to get people to come in and train that way. And we're going to continue to reach out in August when it's available or scheduling's available. But at this point, from what I'm hearing from the other county supervisors, everybody's struggling because if one of us finds something, everybody else wants a phone call because nobody can find it.
I'm still huge on having a designated cleaning crew that would do the ditches, the brush, that type of stuff. But what's the cons to that? I mean, it just seems like I get a lot of pushback when I talk about that. I mean, I would want to go to work every night knowing that I'm going to be running a skid steer out on a road rather than not really knowing what I'm going to be doing.
I don't know as I would term it cons. I would term it an obstacle at this point. If you're talking about a reorganizational chart with one countywide mission or one countywide supervisor, I would wait to reorganize special operations or small groups under that supervisor until you got that supervisor and that supervisor was able to say, okay, I've taken your concept and I'm going to implement it, and this is how I'm going to implement it with the people and the
Machinery.
I've got, because right now you've got 3 mines and you've got 3 foremans and 6 people are trying to develop from concept to plan. And like you said, with me in the middle trying to do the paperwork, and it's not working. If you're going to put one operational supervisor over those shops, then I would have that one operational supervisor implement your plan. I believe you're talking about step number 3 and you're on step number 1. I think you're headed there.
I know we're about 40 years behind the plan though, but
I think you're headed there, but I think that question's best
yeah,
put to whoever you hire for that.
I just feel like our roads, I hadn't been in town all week last week. I got here again. They graded my road last Monday after commission, I think, or during whatever. And I guess it rained here last week. I came back and there was trench along the road again where it just washed out all the gravel and everything again. And I'm not okay with it. What we're doing now is not working. There's no ditches being done in my area anyway. I don't know. I just feel like that, and we're using the graders,
What roadway are you talking about? I'm sorry.
Pleasanton in general.
Okay. I would have to go look at that area because I haven't been there since any rain. As you know, I was down all of last week.
I got phone calls last week or 2 weeks ago that we need something for our dump truck drivers to do. So we just dumped the gravel in front of the grader and spread it out. You guys got any thoughts?
I think we work on reorganizing the things the way we've talked about and work with that road foreman on.
Well, this is going to take 2 months. We're already 12 weeks into a declaration of disaster, right?
And how long have the roads been in this condition?
12
When was the
weeks.
last time ditches were cleaned out?
I don't know.
We still have roads that haven't been fixed since, not just the ditches, the roads.
And now that it's even a bigger issue that we're talking about all the time, the phones ring a lot more. It's been brought to light and everybody wants to tell you everything everybody's doing wrong every single day. Would you agree with that, Jim? That
I know exactly what you're talking about.
do you get the phone calls?
I have not been getting phone calls, but when I do get phone calls, I ask them what I need to do, what their suggestions are, and try to use problem-solving techniques to allow them to share some of the input into that, the citizens.
Yeah, I get that without asking. Every week, big long messages with some cuss words in it too. I think most time.
Well, as I said, I think if you're talking about taking this open opportunity or position to reorganize things, I think you take a gradual turn in those duties and assignments rather than pick a path for someone that we haven't hired yet, because that person may have input on that path as far as a specialized crew and what equipment and where to move that equipment.
I just feel like this is something we keep talking about and nothing is,
Well, let's get this new,
Yeah.
let's start working on this. Let's get to,
That's the closest thing we've had to a plan, Danny.
I can push that out in a week.
because I've been saying it for every single week for the last 12. Thank you for talking. All I know is my citizens deserve to have their roads graded too, Jason. Your foreman in your area was the only one that did the plan that we all thought we were doing. The other two didn't have equipment, none of that, and we didn't know nothing about it until an argument in here when you were gone. So you probably aren't getting as many phone calls. I agree.
So it's my fault that I treat my people with respect.
Sure.
That's what you're telling me here.
I guess if that's your ignorant way of like taking what I just said, then sure, take it how you want. But it's just like Tom says, you guys sit up there and argue about it all the time. We do. This is still going to take us, what, 3 months to figure something out? It's not going to happen overnight. We can't even find a legal advisor to come help us.
Because we ran the last one off.
Because whenever everybody's not doing everything consistently throughout this board, then yeah, people do get ran off. People do stick up for themselves. I have self-respect. When you're doing something different than whatever they respect or expect me to do, of course I'm going to question it. Do you want to get into that?
What do you think
I don't
I'm
think
doing
you do.
different?
You know exactly what I'm talking about.
What are you talking about? Tell me.
If I had legal here, I'd ask if I could, and I would definitely let you know.
Okay.
All right, let's move on.
You have a solid waste proposed budget and the explanation on solid waste. There are 5 full-time and 1 part-time employee. This does not include 1 employee that moves over from noxious weed after the spray season. We have 3 operators, a mechanic, and a supervisor for full-time employees. We have a compact site operator stationed in Centerville as the only part-time employee paid from this fund. The 5 full-time employees run out of Prescott landfill, and the transfer station operation, or run the Pleasanton landfill and transfer station operation, which includes the following duties: weighing, recording, and reporting of all loads coming into the facility, to the county for reimbursement, and the state for compliance purposes. Taking in and packing of all household hazardous waste, or MSW, for transportation, covering and maintaining all C&D construction and demolition waste brought to the facility, managing a brush and mulch area for public use, a scrap metal collection site, waste oil collection site, a tire disposal site, and the HHW, which is, the first MSW is household waste. The second is household hazardous waste collection and storage area. And the recyclables operation for paper, plastic, glass, and cardboard. Collection and removal of MSW containers and transporting them to Crawford or Allen County. Collection of recyclables from remote sites. Collection of scrap metal from remote sites. Maintenance of all compactors on-site and remote. Main and remote site permitting with the state. The contractual line item for this, utilities have increased this year but just slightly with a $2,000 increase in the request for that line item, which brings the total request to $32,000 for 2025. All other contractual line items will remain the same. Landfill closing will have to continue to be moved to a fund to meet state requirements. While we're discussing landfill closing, if I can, three main funds that we're going to discuss are your tipping floor that you're working with our on-call engineer group to design. Your C&D expansion is Terracon, and they are in your expansion. They are through the permit side of this, the conceptual drawing or engineering side of this. They are going to be coming back to you. Tony Malini, if you remember meeting with him as the engineer that worked that project, he's going to be coming back to you and speaking to you about the construction engineering of this project. Get in the weeds, not only draw a concept that they will permit at the state level, but something that the contractors can use to actually build this expansion. And when I say contractors, he and I have discussed, and he will speak to you, that it may be more beneficial to contract this out simply because if we do it with our equipment, we will continually have to restake it and have a survey crew there and available during the construction because our equipment is not currently GPS capable and able to follow those construction diagrams without calling in a surveyor to restake consistently throughout the construction of the project. He'll explain that further. The funding, as you can see on your tipping floor, I believe you've set out your intention to be ARPA funding for that project. Your expansion, if we have to contract that out, is going to have to be funded. Your capital outlay is currently covering your closing cost. Every year, Al fills out paperwork, determines how much we have put into the landfill operation portion of the solid waste program. And from that calculation, the state tells us, and we have put it out to get it more closely matched to the state, what our closing cost would be. And we have to hold that money. As you remember, this is a fund that although there was a line item for it, in years past was never moved over to guarantee that closing, which we guarantee the state through that permitting and that license that we hold that money in abeyance and have it available for the closing of that landfill. So when you see the proposed $25,000 to be moved over, that is the fund that's going to be moved over. I think we've got that line item where we can gradually increase it each year with that transfer of funding and maintain that. Your C&D expansion, your vertical expansion, we're going to have to find that in capital outlay, and I'll discuss that later. Your tipping floor and ARPA funding, if it is inappropriate or will not fund the entire project, we will have to find a funding mechanism and push these things out. But your C&D expansion and your tipping floor cannot completely come out of the 1-year budget that I'm proposing. The way I've designed this is to budget the operation, not budget the capital improvements. We have capital improvement lines in this budget that we can transfer funds and build up those funds that will pay for this. But if we pull 1 year and try to pay for any one of these projects individually through 1-year expansion of those capital outlays, we will drastically increase the line items and the budgets for that year above and beyond what you'll want to have to find from the taxpayer.
So the $60,000 that you have in capital outlay, which is the same as last year, is that for equipment reserve or?
Yes, it's been historically moved to equipment reserve. Now, some of that in your tipping floor, as you notice, walking floor trailers, a backhoe, other equipment will be needed, some road tractors. Some of that can come out of that special equipment that we're rolling that over into to help offset what the ARPA will not fund out of that operation. So there is money available, and we will have to workshop that to determine exactly how much we pull from which fund and when that's pulled. Your capital outlay or closing cost, I think you'll see the 25 set aside there for it.
It's its own line item.
The unknown, and I've reached out to Tony, the unknown is the expansion for the C&D. But as you remember, our C&D isn't closing this coming year. We still have space. So we take the time that we have left in the landfill or C&D operation we have to slowly build over the course of 3 years that funding mechanism for this expansion that gives us the years to build for the future at a new site. I don't know any other way to do it without one critically drastic request that would overwhelm us at one point. To continue your commodities, take the largest jump of $15,000 over the 2024 request. This line item pays for fuel, oil, tools, some parts, and other needed supplies per operation. We would anticipate this line item going down in the future when we commit to using only Allen County for MSW and after we begin using walking floor trailers. Capital outlay will remain the same for 2025 at $60,000. This fund is used for large equipment and project purchases. A plan will have to be relayed to staff as to where the equipment for the new tipping floor operation will be pulled from so that future planning can account for these needs. Currently, we have 2 road tractors, which are in poor condition, 2 skid steers, 1 track loader, which has several large repairs or has had several large repairs recently. And we have 3 roll-off trucks, which carry container boxes and 1 open top roll-offs. We have recently repaired our container boxes, but we'll need to repair or replace our open tops and roll-offs in the future. We have 2 large projects going currently at our Prescott facility. The first is a cell expansion project, which we are working with Terracon to engineer and permit. The permit has been issued for this project, and now Tony Malini from Terracon will be meeting with you soon about the construction grade engineering that will have to be completed and who we will want to do the project. The funding for the engineering part of this project was pulled from contractual, but the construction portion of this project will need to be done by us or funded and will have to be allocated. If we complete this phase of the project, we will need equipment with GPS capabilities. Our surveying costs will be increased. by continuous staking as the dirt work is completed. Second major project is the tipping floor, which you have just signed an engineering agreement with Call Valley Engineering. This project will be funded in part by ARPA, but equipment cost to make the plan work may have to be pulled from equipment reserves, and we will have to adjust plans for funding for this project in the future as needed. The third project, which is not funding based, is updating a third project which is not funding based is updating the contractual agreements between the county and the collection site partners, the city and lake communities. This project is nearing the implementation phase with our partners, but should be put on hold until legal counsel is hired to be brought up to speed. My recommendation for a total budget for 2025 for solid waste is $776,450, up from last year, which was $754,120.
So on here, what city rentals, what was all under that? What did you?
City rentals, I believe, is your site cost for those compactor sites under a old agreement prior to myself.
So have we made it? Have we gotten anywhere with the new agreements? I know that we kind of all came to a conclusion. I know we don't have legal, but have you talked to all the cities? Is everybody aware of what we want to do?
We were getting ready to push that out to the cities, and I've spoke to several of the communities, haven't spoke to the lakes, but some of the cities, and they were in the process of looking at what it would take for them to get the permits. Some cities progressively ask for all of the state regulations, guidelines, and our operational plans so that they could start building job descriptions based off that to more control the operation of the site, and to look over to see if them taking over the operation as far as the permitting would increase any cost or liability to them. They understand what's being proposed and going to be pushed out to them, but no, we have not met with all of them, and I'm waiting on direction because of the loss of legal as to whether or not we should continue with that project. I would anticipate when I meet with them that there are going to be several legal questions brought up about what liability comes from the transfer of the permit from us to them.
You guys got anything on it?
I don't know.
I think the main point here is that we don't have any of those additional things built in here.
The only thing you could do in preparation for the cell expansion is after the construction design, push it out to 2026 because you have the time to do it. Or you could preemptively, if you find it in your budget, lay in more capital outlay onto this budget to be moved into what would you call it, David? A capital improvement, capital projects. You could lay it into a special fund and start building that money up. But I made efforts to contact Tony in between his vacation, my illness last week, and my inability to get him at his desk this morning. I can't give you an estimated cost of what it would cost to do that construction. The construction design, I believe we already have in contractual, so I don't believe that's an issue. It's the physical construction of that.
Okay.
So if we do have any funds available to move into capital outlay and to push to that project, that is exactly where that funding should go. But I can't give you a number as to what that is, and I can't make a recommendation on what that is. My thought on that would be after doing all of the other budgets to see where we're at and looking across at what the tax burden would be and what would be available for that. And whatever's available, if it's suitable for that project, should be moved into it. And I don't know, based on the discussions with Call Valley on your tipping floor project and where we land with that, whether or not the ARPA funding will be solely appropriate for that, or we'll have to push out for more money on that project as well.
It's not going to cover it.
So any funding available should be divided into those two.
Right. Okay.
Commissioners, do you have any questions for me? I apologize about my voice, but I'm just now getting it back completely I do need to, if you don't have any questions, I do need to step away and get a drink again.
Mine can wait. Are you guys good with this budget?
I am.
I am tentatively approve it. Make a motion to tentatively approve the solid waste budget for,
$76,450.
that's it.
I'll second it.
Motion been moved and seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Commissioners, I'm going to step away, but I'll remind you that our meeting is at 1 o'clock at 2200 and Yancey to look at the fiber project. And that's probably going to require us at least 40 minutes from now to break and head to that location.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ready to move on to budget.
Yeah, I guess good with him move on.
I had 3 that I posted on there for you to look at today on budgets. I was preparing the clerk, election, and courthouse. Here's from the County Clerks Association website. There's 2 pages to each one, just kind of a listing of duties of county clerks, and they're going to vary some from county to county, depending on if you have administrators or other people doing some of those things. What I've got is the clerk budget. I have it coming in at $171,950, which would be a $3,000 decrease. The election budget at $123,550, which would be a $4,450 decrease, and the courthouse budget at $535,850, which is a $45,720 increase.
Now what's that? I mean,
Okay.
I've seen them, but can you explain them?
So these 3 I like to do together because I have some of my staff salaries in all of them. That's some of my changes. We're moving, reallocating how I'm paying some of the staff. So I transferred more of that over to, where's it, election than I had before. But then I still have election coming down a little bit because next year should be 2 elections, could be just 1, but at least 1 where we had 3 this year. So without transferring some of that salary over to election, that one would have come down quite a bit more. The courthouse budget is where I went up. That one, just basing on what our expenses have been for the first 6 months of this year and trying to plan ahead on it. I mean, there is I actually took salaries down on that one, but I increased on insurance for next year. We underestimated this year by about $20,000. So I bumped that on up to 160 next year, and it was only at 133 this year. Software, computer license fees, everything associated with computer programs continues to increase. Again, that was far under budgeted this year, so I bumped that from 35 to 59. The R&R notices, did not budget that in there this year, thinking we were going to have to pay just a county share of that going out, and then we would collect back from other entities, and was hoping that would just kind of balance out and I wouldn't need to worry about it. Well, the state's picking it up again this year, but that also means I'm paying it out of this budget and then waiting for reimbursement to go back in to the general fund. So I just went ahead and put that in last year. So that's 14,000, but I would also budget that 14 in the general. So that's not going to affect taxes. The one that surprised me just based on what we've done so far this year was the death investigations and autopsies. That's been running up around 60, 70,000 a year for a couple of years. And this year it's dropped down so far quite a bit. So I just balanced out some of those other increases in that line and dropped it from 70 to 50,000 for next year. I've got, general ledger printouts that are backups to where this information came from. If there's specific questions you want to get into on what's in some of these lines, I can look through that and explain more of it.
As far as like the roofs and stuff along those lines, any improvements to the courthouse?
I don't have anything in here specifically for that. I do have just 20,000 capital outlay. We've been just kind of budgeting that every year for small things that came up. We also have a special building budget, and we've got some money put away in the equipment reserve for the courthouse. So, if we have a bigger project come up for it, we can take money out of those areas.
I'm dealing with Rosin Preservation Company. They called me, and I'm trying to get them down here to do an overall assessment of the courthouse and give us a plan. And they deal with like tax credits and things like that. So,
So you're not thinking it'll come out of the budget?
I think there'll be probably some, but I don't think it'll be this year. So,
Okay.
I think it's long term. I think so.
Okay.
We can work with them.
May I have a moment?
No, public comments over. We're trying to do our budget right now.
Okay, just let me know.
Okay. Go ahead, David.
That was all I had, was wondering about how we were going to try to fund that, but if it's not happening until next year, that makes sense.
I would say that it would take a long time that stuff takes forever, the Historic Society and stuff. So we
Okay.
get a plan and then present it to the state, and then they come back and they don't really critique it. They just want to know what you're going to be doing if you do anything. So it's kind of a process.
And something to keep in mind, if you're looking at projects where there might be some grant funding coming in, you can always amend a budget during a year if you've got more cash to work with. So even if we didn't have anything in here and we suddenly got a $200,000 grant to work on the courthouse that we'd get money for next year, we could amend next year's budget if we needed to allow us to spend that money without affecting tax levies.
Okay.
Now, obviously, if you get to a point of hiring a county administrator, that's gonna change salary amounts here. I mean, you're not going to reduce salaries overall between all budgets, but it's gonna rearrange where they come from.
Right.
But if you're within the general fund, the line items, as far as the state's concerned for budget law, don't even matter. They're looking at the bottom line of the fund. So rearranging it from one budget to another is not a big deal.
So I'm just writing down on the three budgets, the details, so. Clerk.
Are you ready for a motion to tentatively approve?
I think so, yeah.
I'll make a motion that we tentatively approve the courthouse budget at $535,850. The election budget at $123,550. And the clerk budget at $171,950. All of those include the 3% COLA.
I'll second. Motion been moved and seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
What's the national average on COLA? Is it like 3.5? Is that close, David? I know last year, what was it, 8 point?
Yeah, I haven't looked. I compared to Midwest CPI and did like a rolling 5-year average. And I'm using April CPI because that's usually the last completed month I can look at before I start working on that. And this year it was just under 3, and looking at the averages, 3 would keep us about in line over that 5-year period. So that's where I got the number. Doesn't mean it has to be used.
Okay. What did we do last year? 5?
Last year we had during the year an increase and then another dollar amount that was equal to about 5, I think, at the end of the year also, or 4. Between the two of them, it was like 9 during the year, I think.
I'd say we did the dollar and then 4%.
Yeah. But that seems to have flattened out a little this year and didn't jump as much as it has the last couple of years. All right, well, that's really all I had for you today.
One thing I do want to talk about is something that was working on with both legal advisors that we had until they went away. I feel like that on our volunteer committees that you should be open-minded. You shouldn't utilize the information you have to go against other people and ask for certain things. Then you have to be open-minded. With that being said, I don't feel like that Charlene Sims has been that. I feel like that there has been multiple cases of her attacking people on the board for not agreeing with how she felt, asking for core requests if you don't agree with how she feels. And with that being said, I make a motion that we remove her from the board.
This would be the planning commission.
Yep.
I'd have to agree with you, Danny, but I'll tell you what, I think that we've done it. We removed somebody from planning and zoning. I wasn't involved in it, but I don't think we want to go there on a volunteer board like that. You guys both did it on one guy. I think you was wrong when you did it.
Okay.
Myself, even though I agree with what you're saying. But I don't think we can go there.
I'm not going to second that motion. I said I'm not going to second that.
I'm not, because I think we made a terrible mistake by doing what we did here a few months ago.
Motion died with a lack of a second. So now we're gonna be moving the meeting to Yancey and 2200 Road to meet with some reps over the conduit sticking up out of the ground and, correct?
Okay, so I think probably, I mean, if you're done with things in here for the day, would probably be appropriate to have a motion to recess until 1 PM and reconvene at 2200 and Yancey Road.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Motion been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, so we'll see everybody up there. I think that's right on, that's Power Plant Road.
Power plant road, yep,
Yeah.
this road east of the power plant, I think.